Hello, Amber here, and welcome to the very first episode of Design Tales, a vlog series where I plan to talk about designs as I publish them and give insight into my design process, choosing yarn, and information about techniques and anything else that might be helpful or interesting regarding my designs as I publish them. I plan also perhaps to revisit some older designs, so I might have dedicated episodes to feature a favourite older design that I want to explore more further on this video format. And yeah, probably you can expect one or two new designs from me a month. So I'll have a video perhaps for each or both of those in a single video. And I'll also include a questions and answers section too. So if you have any questions along the way, just share them in the comments or reach out to me via my email and let me know if there's something you'd like to know a bit more about me or my design process or any particular patterns, especially if you'd like to see an older one featured here. I'd love to hear from you. I'll include plenty of links in the show notes below, so if you want to find a pattern that I've talked about or places to find me generally online, or if you want to subscribe to my newsletter, then you can find those links below. The idea of this vlog came to me a couple of days ago. I was thinking about a new pattern I have coming out next week and how it would be really interesting to do a vlog for it. And then I thought, I would actually also want to share perhaps my last few releases because in some ways they lead into the pattern coming out next week. I thought it might be a bit much to include everything on one vlog. So today I'm going to have this introductory first episode. I'll talk about 3 patterns that I have published this year already. And then next week I'll be back with episode 2 with a new pattern for you to explore. So with 3 patterns today, this might be a longish episode, but I'll try to keep it fairly succinct for you. I am excited to share a bit more about my design process. To begin with this first episode, I'll just share a little bit more about me. My name is Amber. I've been designing knitting patterns for over 12 years and still love it. I'm pretty obsessed. It's really quite a joyful job to have and I appreciate it very much. In addition to designing knitting patterns, I host online spaces to knit together, mostly in my Ravelry group. However, I do have a Facebook group and connect with knitters on Instagram and Facebook in general. Over the years, I've developed several regular knit-alongs that I run every year, and then I'll often have a couple of others kind of scattered around. So just for an overview, those include a mini munch knit along, which is currently on now, where knitters are encouraged to use mini skeins or even just little bits of leftover yarn from their stash and munch them up into a project, one of my designs. And I have a lot of suggestions for designs that work well with mini skeins. However, knitters are invited to be creative about how they might incorporate a mini skein into their project. And we're seeing lots of beautiful finished objects appearing now. It's pretty lovely, relaxed knit along where people are just enjoying perhaps finishing off some whips or munching through some of those minis. Then the next knit along will be my annual June solstice knit along, and I have a new pattern in the works for that. I'll share more about that in a future episode. Followed by generally the Amber's Halloween knit along, where I have a growing catalogue of Halloween focused designs, including skull lace patterns, shawls, scarves, moths, and other eerie knits for you to join in and knit and finish your Halloween project to wear for the 31st of October. And they can incorporate Halloween themed yarn from yarn Dyers. It's quite a lovely knit along as well, very relaxed. Often I'll then have maybe a whip that whip knit along to encourage people to get those things off their needles, and then prepare for the big knit along I do every year, which is Ambah's festive cowl, which is through December, and knitters are invited to create or purchase festive/advent yarn kits, usually with mini skeins that are secret, and they can open a fresh skein every day and knit it into a project. And I've designed quite a few designs every year. I add a couple of designs to the festive cowl bundle, so there's plenty for knitters to choose between, from small projects to large projects. And the cowl runs through the following January, so there's plenty of time, and it's filled with lots of delicious prizes and wonderful sponsorship from Dyers, who are also creating gorgeous kits for knitters to open up every day, and a lot of generosity of spirit of our lovely participants. And I mention that because the first pattern I'm going to talk about today is kind of a festive cowl inspired design. So I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of an overview of the knit-alongs to start with. So the first pattern I'm going to talk about, my first release for 2025, is the Cosmos Blossom Wrap, which this is a huge version of it. There's plenty of ways to modify this to make it the size that works for you. And why it fits into the festive cowl theme, I actually did hope to have this finished and ready for the 2024 festive cowl bundle and just ran out of time. So I finished it up for a January release, and it will be added to the the current year festive bundle. Each of these flower lace squares can be knit with a 20-gram mini skein, so it's perfect for the festive kit 20-gram mini skeins. And then the little triangle versions of them use half of a mini skein. So the full size wrap that I have here uses I think 18 full skeins for each row of squares, and there's 3 of those, is 6 squares across, and then there are a total of 6 triangles, 3 on each end. Because it's modular, this wrap includes instructions to perhaps just have a narrow scarf version with just 1 row, or a narrower wrap with 2 rows. And then you could reduce the number of squares in each row from 6 to 5 or 4, according to how many you'd like and the size of the wrap for you. And this huge size is great. It's so big and cozy and wonderful, and I love the fact that it used all those skeins. But yeah, you can easily modify this to the size that's going to work for you. It's part of a collection. The first in this collection I published a couple of years ago, and that was the Cosmos Blossom shawl. And I have a few samples of that, including this DK weight version. And then I updated the pattern last year to include a small little kerchief version that you could knit in either DK weight or fingering weight. So it's just like a little... I have another sample where, like with the shawl, I used a contrasting yarn to join the pieces together, which adds to the effect. And then I decided to try out a solid non-cut contrasting version as well. It's a bit easy to see with a white background. And then last year I published the Cosmos Blossom Pro in time for the festive knit along. And I don't have the sample here to show you, but I'll post some slides at the end of this video and you'll be able to see the Cosmos Blossom Pro, which currently lives with Tarina, who is the yarn dyer of Love and Speckles Yarn, and we collaborated on that project. She started knitting squares and then sent it over, and I finished the rest of the squares and joined it and sent it back to her. So it lives at her house now. So for this particular pattern sample, I used Miss Bab's yarn, the Yummy 2-ply, and it wasn't a festive set. A few years ago, I had a project in mind, so I ordered. Okay, I just had a call from my son, so paused for a moment. Where was I? Miss Bab's yarn. I think I was going to mention a few years ago, I purchased quite a stash of Miss Bab's Yummy 2-ply toes, which are mini skeins that are approximately a third of a full skein. So it's equivalent to around 33 grams. So out of one mini skein, one toes mini skein, I can get one triangle and one square, one knit square. So I used that for this project, plus also I mixed it up with a full skein, which was the main colour, and also one of these colours was a full skein where I repeated. So I had some minis and full skeins for this project. It can be knit entirely with minis or stash yarn. It's so versatile. And yeah, I had purchased the Miss Bab's yarn to kind of have a nice palette to choose from when designing. So often I like to rummage through my stash and put together colours for a design. Sometimes previously I've worked with Babs where we've worked out a colour palette together and she's dyed it and sent it to me. Sometimes it's just nice to have a palette in my stash where I can go where inspiration strikes and create something. And this palette, I think I had something else in mind and then didn't quite get to it. And so, yeah, I really loved this colour combination of all the rusty fall colours and was pretty excited to knit it up into the wrap version of the Cosmos Blossom series. The Cosmos Blossom series now has 3 patterns, which are all quite modifiable and variable, and they're all now included as part of the festive knit-along bundle. So it's a great pattern for your festive mini skeins. You can also knit it up in the mini munch cowl that I have at the moment. The original inspiration for the Cosmos Blossom shawl was beautiful crochet designs that I had been seeing a few years ago, crochet patchwork garments and shawls, and as a knitter primarily I wanted to recreate something of that kind of vibe into a shawl, a knit shawl. So I spent some time developing a flower motif. I thought that would be fun and very crochet inspired, and designed the Cosmos Blossom shawl. Then, as I said before, there's DK and fingering weight versions in that pattern, and then revisited it last year for the cute little kerchief. And I knew I'd always had in mind to do the wrap and the throw, so it's just been a process of finding time for those projects as well. So I'm really excited to have finished those projects. I'm not sure if I have another Cosmos Blossom design in me. I kind of very much like the idea of a little jacket, kind of duster coat type of thing, knit with these squares. It's tricky with such large squares to design for a wide range of body shapes, so I'm still umming and ahhing about that one. Perhaps it'll just be a personal project for me. So that was design number 1 of this year, 2025. And then design number 2, published probably February, I guess. Often I like to start the year after the big festive knit along with big patterns, with a cute little shawlette, something, a little snack in between the bigger projects. And for this year, my little snack was the Snaggletooth shawl or shawlette. So this began with the idea of a 5 mini skein project that's also equivalent to a 100-gram fingering weight project. I used Koigu for this because they have the 5 mini skein paint tins. So I wanted to design something that could be knit with one of their paint tins. And a few years ago, they kindly sent me a large collection of mini skeins for me to design with. So I rummaged through my Koigu mini skein stash and came up with the colours for Snaggletooth. And yeah, leaning into the oranges and pinks. And there's a few ways that they can be knit. The way I knit my sample was to mirror the mini skein. So instead of knitting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which can easily be done, I used half of number 1 for each end and then worked number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5 is in the center, and then work back across the other way. And there's plenty of ways that you can play with colour for yourself in this pattern, or you can use a single skein of yarn like I did with the DK version, and then just have that contrast popping for the Snaggletooth, which is such a cute name. Thanks to my partner Andy for thinking of that one. Initially I was thinking crocodile smile, but there are already a few crocodile smile patterns on Ravelry, so I thought I should maybe do something else. And it's garter stitch, it's simple shaping, it's quite a palette cleansing type of knit, which was what I was looking for at the time. And it also involves a little bit of intarsia, which can be a scary prospect to some people. But because you're only working 2 colours per row, there's not much to juggle in this. It's a really fantastic beginner intarsia project. And really all you have to do is twist the yarn. I describe it in the pattern, and I have a tutorial on my YouTube for intarsia. It's pretty simple. The hardest thing is juggling the yarn and keeping things organised. So I suggest that you just find a space where you can easily juggle the yarn, that it's comfortable. I mean, with this project, you only have 2 balls of yarn at a time. It doesn't get that tangly. With the multi-skein projects, it can get a little bit fiddly. But that's really, honestly, the hardest part about intarsia. So this is design number 2, Snaggletooth, and it's just a cute little shawlette. Fun to knit. And then more intarsia, which seems to be a little bit of a theme for this year, and also what ties into next week's pattern. We have the Aurora Hunter's shawl. So I live by the coast, and the southern coast is just a few minutes walk from my house, and we're lucky enough to get visits from Aurora australis at various times of the year. And the last couple of years I've become pretty obsessed with keeping up to date and running out and photographing it when it appears. I'll post some photos at the end of some of my Aurora sightings. I'm pretty amateur. I'm getting better every Aurora. It takes practice, and sometimes they're vivid enough to be able to see with your bare eyes, which is just so amazing. And other times you don't maybe see so much of the colour with your bare eyes. You do need the camera to be able to see the colour, but you can see the light energy, the light change and diffuse, and yeah, it's quite magical. So I call myself an Aurora hunter now, and was very excited during the last festive knit along when one of our dyers, Sadie from Green Tea Yarns, created the Northern Lights Aurora festive set. And as I do, I watch people open their kits, and each year there'll be a couple of kits that really stand out to me, and I hope that I can snag a re-dye of one of those kits. And this was one of them. It started with the neons and moved into the purples by the end. Sadie was one of our wonderful sponsors and awarded this kit as a prize to a lucky winner, I think around day 10 of the festive knit along. And she had a prize code for everyone to use. And so I was inspired to go to her website when I was announcing that fantastic prize and saw that she still had the 12 colour kits available, and I snapped one up immediately. I was so thrilled by that. And pretty much the design for this came quickly. It was a nice, relaxing end of year design. I was just so excited by combining her kit into something Aurora themed. And I wanted to, the design is essentially stemming from light beams in the way that when I go out there and see them, they're often these kind of beams of light, and I wanted to post them on an angle to kind of really illustrate what I see out there. So a bit of sketching later, figuring out a little bit of swatching to figure out how much of this main colour I would need and how best to create the pattern, and it flew off the needles. It was one of those just happens shawls. And then I reached out to Sadie. I was pretty excited by it and said, I'd love to make a smaller version with 5 skein mini set and a contrasting full skein. Would you be open to dyeing up a set in the colours of one of my photos from a Aurora Australis, which is generally, the Southern Lights are often pinker and a different colour theme. So she kindly agreed and dyed up this beautiful set for the Aurora Australis version, which we're calling Southern Lights. The Northern Lights are often more the blues and purples. And we do get those colours down here as well. However, most of my photographs are largely the kind of purpley, magenta, reds. So that was a really fun collaboration. And it's fun to see in the mini munch knit along people knitting some matching to mine or using their stash and creating beautiful, unique auroras. Tarina from Love and Speckles created the Carrington event Aurora set, which is just gorgeous. I bought that off her as well, and I'm currently working on another design with her set that is not this, but it's a sun focused design. That's something coming up in a couple of months. Again, this uses intarsia, and again, it's very much like Snaggletooth. You can see how they kind of lead to each other design-wise, where you're only ever working 2 colours per row at the most. So you're only juggling 2 skeins of yarn. It's a quite straightforward intarsia project. It's garter stitch. It's very cruisy. It's a nice, relaxing, palette cleansing, satisfying project. And yeah, the shape is the asymmetrical triangle, something that I love to wear. Generally like this. And that's the Aurora Hunter shawl. Very much inspired by the yarn. People often ask me, where do I get my design inspiration from? And it truly varies from design to design. Sometimes it might be wishing for a particular item in my wardrobe and designing from that, or having an idea I want to explore, a shaping idea, or the challenge of designing with 24 mini skeins for Advent design. There's so many starting points for my designs. A lot of them are evolutions too, like the Cosmos wrap that I showed you has evolved over a couple of years from the Cosmos Blossom shawl. Yeah, so there's quite a few designs that are evolution designs where I've been excited about a motif or a pattern and just want to keep creating variations of it. Well, I think I got through those pretty quickly actually. I don't think this will be a super long episode. Thank you for joining me for this first episode. I'm looking forward to sharing more design insights and stories with you. I kept each one a little bit brief today. I didn't want the episode to drag on too long. Do, as I said before, leave a question in the comments or send me an email if there's something you'd like me to talk about a bit more. And I'm looking forward to sharing more with you. I'll be back next week with the new shawl that I'll be publishing, and I'm very excited about that. And meanwhile, I'll finish this episode with a few slides with designs I've talked about today. Thanks for watching.